He once served as councilor of the city of Manila and led the Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission. He ran for senator in 2013 and 2016 but lost. Now, Greco Belgica is having a third shot at it. Joining us live for an up-close conversation, senatorial aspirant Greco Belgica. Greco, thank you so much for joining us. Your father was the PDDS party's original presidential candidate, substituted by Senator Bongo, and now has withdrawn from the race. Are you disappointed that Senator Go is no longer running for president?
Well, the announcement, of course, surprised us. It was not part of, although we were expecting something, a decision, we were expecting it to be to turn the other way around. However, things happen as it is, and we as a party are set to sit down, talk about it, together with our principals, our leaders, President Duterte and Senator Bongo, to determine the next steps for our party. Dahil, Senator Bongo, saying that he will be withdrawing, will affect, of course, the campaign. So
Right.
we have to determine our next steps.
So what is the next
But nothing's
step?
final
Who
po
will the
until-
PDDS now support and endorse for president?
Yeah, that's exactly the main agenda of the meeting. So I rushed back to Manila. I was at the north organizing our party. But then because of these things that happened, we have to come back and sit down and seek audience and a meeting with President Duterte and Senator Bongo, anytime soon. So yeah, the party has to.
Greco?
Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, the party has to talk about it as a party.
Okay, so will PDDS endorse the candidate that President Duterte and Senator Bongo will endorse, or could PDDS go its own route, could endorse another
No.
candidate?
No, definitely not. The PDDS is the President and Senator Bongo's party. It was organized to pursue the aspirations of the President,
Right.
even after his term has end. So, of course, yung sasabihin niya po ay maging importante sa tatahakin ng PDDS, who is still supporting and is still giving his 100% support to the President and Senator Bongo.
All right, Greco, let's take a look at your mandate in government over the past few years. As former Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission Chair, how many government officials have been relieved of their duties and cases filed against them due to corruption?
Cases have been filed. 154 cases has been filed against high-ranking government officials. Over 1,000 cases has been investigated, and 13,000 reports and complaints has been acted upon by the PACC. The PACC has only jurisdiction over presidential appointees when reports against corruption extends up to the barangay and elected officials. So that made it very, very difficult for us to act on most cases, especially those that did not belong to our jurisdiction. We had to endorse this and seek support from other agencies, and these are one of the major reforms that we would like to bring into the Senate, is to expand jurisdiction, give more power, propose anti-corruption police force that will strengthen the anti-corruption campaign of the president or of the country. The PACC has only very limited power because its power only stemmed from the powers of the president.
Right.
So, but just the same, all this work and the anti-corruption campaign that was led by the president, implemented by the PACC, produced fear in the hearts of all government officials, whether it is appointed or elected within our jurisdiction or not, to get into corruption. There is still corruption, don't get me wrong. However,
Yes.
it is not as bad as it was before.
Yeah.
Kung baga ko ngayon, tagong-tago.
But
ang
of course,
corruption.
the president is the most powerful person in the country. So you also have extra powers to basically put people behind bars, Greco. And when we posted on social media that you were our guest, there were comments that you were just a small fry catcher, and the PACC's initiatives are just lip service, all just talk and no action. What do you have to say to this?
Well, those are not true dahil records will bear for us, you know. Ang mga inimbestigahan po namin are not small fry. They were secretaries, undersecretaries, assistant secretaries. Those people that the president would read would mostly be PACC results. Hindi namin kayang magpakulong dahil hindi po kami korte. We are authorized to recommend to the president and endorse or file cases with the ombudsman after we have investigated the case. Yun po ang pinakamalaking problema dito sa justice system natin. Pagkatapos naming imbestigahan, ipapasa namin sa ombudsman para imbestigahan ulit yung imbestigahan na namin. Tapos ipapasa na naman nila sa sandigan para imbestigahan ulit yung imbestigahan namin dalawa. Dapat po ang mga opisina kagaya namin ay magkaroon ng kapangyarihan, pakulong na yung mga naimbestigahan na po namin. At apat po ang opisina namin ay magkaroon ng opisina sa lahat ng ahensya ng gobyerno hanggang sa barangay at LGU, kagaya po ng inilatag namin nung I was PACC chairman, nalalagyan ko po ng anti-corruption committees ng lahat po ng offices sa gobyerno.
So Greco, how do you plan to change this if you become senator? Because you've recommended all of these corrupt officials, no? And you've passed it on to the ombudsman. But we haven't really seen any big fish behind bars. What will you do if you were senator to change this system?
You can do it through law, no po. Nakaset up po ang structure dyan, like the Office of the Ombudsman. So through the Senate, then you can propose laws and strengthen offices like the PACC. We have jailed through entrapment, working together with the NBI and the Philippine National Police, 24 government officials. Po, if we had the power to jail everyone, then lahat po na-imbestigahan namin, nakulong po yan. And you can ask po ang mga Bureau of Customs, BIR, BI, DPWH, ang dami-daming proyektong nagawa niyan, build, which is of course a result of a serious and strong anti-corruption campaign. The BIR and the Bureau of Customs, marami pa rin pong corruption dyan. Pero it is only this term that they have continually hit their revenue targets every month for over a year because money or revenue is going straight to the to government coffers, no longer in the pockets of corrupt.
Because Greco, there are a lot of critics who were saying that yes, these corrupt officials are taken out from their positions, but they're reappointed or recycled to other positions.
Well, you know, there were officials na ganun po, pero hindi po lahat. Those officials that were reappointed, kasi po kami mga ano lang po kami, yung recommending lang po, recommendatory lang po ang PACC. So if our principal does not agree with our findings, yun lang po ang kapangyarihan namin. Pero ito pong mga opisyal na to na sinasabi nila nga na-reappoint, hindi po nawala ang kaso niyan sa amin at naisampa po namin sa Office of the Ombudsman yan. If we believe na sa amin may kaso sila, like Secretary Duque, Secretary La Peña, sasabi lang nire-recycle. Pero as far as we were concerned, we gave our report, we gave our recommendation, and then it was forwarded to the ombudsman for the case has been filed. And yun lang po ang limit talaga ng kapangyarihan namin. We want to do more. Yun nga ang sabi namin, nag-uusap kami ng Pangulo, sabi ko, boss, kulang talaga ang kapangyarihan. Kung if we just had the power to send these guys to jail, they'd be all in jail right now.
All right.
Sabi niya, yan ang sabihin mo at gawin mo sa Senado.
So, Greco, if you become senator, in your view, how should the government fight this war on drugs? Should it continue to adopt an ironclad, no-nonsense anti-drug policy?
Definitely, sir. That's the way to go. And in the proper implementation of RA 9164 or 9165 or the anti-drug abuse, setting up the anti-drug abuse councils down to the barangay anti-drug abuse council and the anti-drug board of the local governments will strengthen the fight against corruption. Against drugs. Dalawa po kasi yan, yung suppression, yung nakikita nating tukhang, at yung intervention po ito po yung organizing the communities to come together and fight corruption, conducting your anti-drug campaign and strengthening, empowering the families, the local governments, the barangay to monitor and operate anti-corruption, anti-drugs operations po, both suppressive and interventive.
But Greco, a lot of the people have been caught for drugs, whether users or sellers, suppliers, have been basically, our kababayans in the marginalized part of society. If you are a senator, will you also push for the drug users and the drug suppliers who belong to the upper echelons of society?
Lahat po, sir. The law does not distinguish between rich and poor, male and female. Pag sinabi po kasi nila mas marami nahuhuli for drugs na maliliit, ganun din po ang corruption eh. Bakit mas marami na dadampot at nahuhuling maliit? Because we do not distinguish between high ranking or low ranking. If you get into corruption, then we catch you. Get into drugs, then we catch you. The thing is, mas marami po talaga mga kababayan natin ang physically na mahihirap, physically umahawak ng droga at nagtatransact rather than the big bosses and the thugs that transact drugs or get into corruption without actually holding money.
So what will you do, Greco, to find out if these rich people are holding the drugs? Because like what you said, ang nakikita lang ng pulis, ang humahawak ng droga are our poor kababayans. How will you try to find out that the rich are also holding drugs or are using drugs?
We have to cure the law, These rich people use money to transact drugs and also to corrupt. And our laws and the equipments of the Philippine National Police, offices like us, does not have the power and the authority and the equipments, to follow the money. That's what I'm saying. You want to know who's into drugs? You follow the money, but then restricted po ang ating batas. So we have to cure that law for people and for people who gets involved with drugs, who gets involved in corruption. That law should not apply to them. Ito pong yung mga bank secrecy laws should not apply to them because they're a threat to national security. They're criminals.
And of people use drugs because they don't have jobs, Greco. And right now, more than 4.5 million of our kababayans do not have jobs, have lost their jobs because of the pandemic. And how will you try to jumpstart the economy and create jobs through legislation if you become senator?
Thank you, sir. We really need to address job creation and development and bring up the economy. There are many ways. We have to cure economic and trade policies. We have to strengthen the fight against corruption and red tape because when red tape and corruption goes down, business and development goes up, projects goes up, more services go up, more businesses come in. Number two, when I was in Berkeley I was studying in Berkeley, the venture capital fund was a very famous system in the United States that put in money for businesses to invest in entrepreneurship, to invest in medium and small medium businesses. We can bring that here if we can simplify and consolidate and digitize, properly implement the ARTA law, strengthen the ARTA law, strengthen the anti-corruption fight. These businesses and these funds will be available para po bumalik ang negosyo, bumalik ang trabaho ng tao. And thirdly, we have to work on our taxes. I've been talking about this from 2013. The 10% flat tax will lower down tax rate and simplify it, bring more revenue for people and more revenue for government. So these are some of the economic and trade policies that I wish, if God allows, took me to bring to the Senate.
All right, Greco, we will have to take the short break and we will continue this up-close conversation with you. This is the final word on CNN Philippines. I'm Rico Hizon. Still with us tonight for an up-close conversation, senatorial aspirant Greco Belgica. Greco, for this particular portion, you'll only have to answer me with a yes or a no. No explanations. Let's start off. Do you favor easier public access to the SALN of the President, Vice President, and members of Congress?
Yes.
Do you support lifting foreign ownership limits in the Constitution?
Yes.
Do you favor the reimposition of the death penalty for drug-related crimes?
Yes, for all heinous crimes, including corruption.
Do you favor resuming peace talks with the communist rebels?
Yes, for all Filipinos, yes.
Should a sitting president be allowed to run for the Senate?
Yes,
Should the country be more aggressive in protecting its maritime interests in the West Philippine Sea?
yes.
And finally, Greco, your final word on why our kababayan should elect you to the Senate. You have 30 seconds.
Sa atin pong mga kababayan, una-una, vote wisely, know your candidates. Alamin niyo po ang kanilang nakaraan, alamin niyo po ang kanilang nagawa na, kanilang track record at kanilang pong plano. The future is in your hand. Ako po, I've been in government service for 20 years and I will bring a stronger anti-corruption campaign in the Senate and make sure na lahat ng iniimbestigahan natin ay nakukulong at napaparusahan. At kung pagpapalain ng Diyos, ibabalik po natin ang parusang kamatayan sa dumal na krimen at korupsyon. Maraming salamat po.
Senatorial aspirant Greco Belgica, thank you so much for joining us on Up Close.